Big day of racing from Atlanta International Raceway today on ABC's Wide World of Sports with the running of two 125-mile Indycar events. The first is over, and Johnny Rutherford was the winner. Lee Kunzman was second. You'll see highlights of that race, plus live coverage of the second race from Atlanta. Also, a report on the situation that has shaken the racing world to its very foundations. USAC versus CART, and its implications in regard to racing's premier spectacle, the Indy 500. And there's more on Wide World today, an event you've enjoyed before, and I had a lot of fun covering.
In the world of rust fighting, there are two.
Coming to you live from Atlanta International Raceway, a facility actually located about 30 miles south of downtown of the Georgia state capitol, and good racing conditions today. It's not too hot, temperature in the low 70s. We have a heavy cloud cover, so the drivers should not face any glare problems. And we're here to report the Atlanta 125. I'm Al Michaels along with Jackie Stewart. As we mentioned on the tees, this is a doubleheader. First race has already been run, won by Johnny Rutherford, an exciting race. More excitement, I'm sure, to come, especially on this track, Jackie. It's just a mile and a half, and they were running laps in excess of 193 miles an hour in the first race.
Great racing. We saw great racing, and we're going to see it again, because the best drivers in America, with the possible exception of one man, A.J. Foyt is not here, because he's a USAC driver, and these are CART racing drivers here. This difference, very important at this time. But Rutherford's here, Gordon Johncock's here, the Unser brothers, Rick Mears, Wally Dallenbach. These are the best that there is in America. And my goodness, is it going to be close, because 125 miles round here, very tight. We're going to get a close finish, I'm pretty sure.
It's like a sprint, and as Jackie said, we're going to go back now and review the highlights of the first race, run just a couple of hours ago. The first half of today's Twin 125 at Atlanta, a race in which Johnny Rutherford went into the winner's circle for the first time in 1979. Here's the start. The cars pulled out of turn number 4, anticipating the green flag, and it was the pole sitter, Johnny Rutherford, who qualified at 101.693 miles an hour, who took the lead. Gordon Johncock was outside Rutherford in row number 1, challenged him between turns 1 and 2, and then Johnny started to pull away down the backstretch. You can see Mike Mosley moving into third place at that point in the race, and Danny Ongayas was fourth. Johnny Rutherford running very smoothly at the outset.
Johnny Rutherford dominated practice, he dominated qualifying, and here straight at the beginning of this race, he was beginning to dominate the field and the race. Johnny Rutherford driving the red and white McLaren, being closely followed there by Gordon Johncock, and Mike Mosley putting a lot of pressure on.
Johnny Rutherford was able to maintain the lead through the early stages of the race. Then he developed some steering problems. He was able to overcome those. Gordon Johncock was able to move into the lead through the next stage of the race under the green. And then we had our first yellow flag, the first caution light of the day. And that, of course, made everybody a bit tighter in the field. That occurred on lap number 34. Here's how it happened.
At a racetrack where speeds are so high, a situation can develop, and this is what happened in the race. The blue and white car there is Vern Chupin. He obviously had a problem, had to go slowly. Danny Ongayas behind him slowed up as well. Then you saw the traffic jam there of Rick Mears and Bobby Unser, who had to shuffle their way out of that. Behind that, this is what occurred. The white car there is that of Wally Dallenbach. Suddenly he got out of line because he had to be on the brakes, got the car spinning, luckily kept it on the hard surface there, slowing himself down. That's the car there of Wally Dallenbach, car number 40, spinning around there, luckily without hitting anyone. Well, a lucky day for Wally Dallenbach.
Dallenbach physically was fine. The car went back into the pits. They worked on it. He did get back into the race, but was not a factor, finishing well down in the pack. There were several lead changes then through the middle stages of the race. Then toward the end, a very unfortunate happening in the pits. Take a look.
Joe Saldana's car in the pit. Saldana's out the car, and the car caught fire. And there you see it's an alcohol fire. It's an absolutely white flame. You don't see the flame really, and that's the problem. They're trying to get it out. One of his mechanics, Gary Black, on the floor with the medical staff.
Happy to report, and we can tell you we've just received word moments ago, Gary Black is fine. He's resting comfortably. He just has some blisters on the soles of his feet, so that is good news. Now we'll pick up the action toward the end of the race with less than 5 laps to go. Less than 5 laps to go, and the sinister-looking black and silver car, number 21 of Lee Kunzman, who has never won a championship car race. He was in the lead lead at this point. But there was Johnny Rutherford right on his tail as if to measure him.
Well, for Lee Koonsman, a tremendous amount of pressure. A driver who's never won one of these very important races, suddenly in the lead of a race. Now, this is a lot of pressure for any race driver, particularly when he looks in his mirrors there and he sees this big white and red car, and particularly the driver in that car being Johnny Rutherford, a man that's won the Indy 500, a man who's really had an enormous amount of experience, and Rutherford at this time stalking him. Koonsman using the racetrack very sensibly, very maturely, but Rutherford looking for a place to pass him. And this is the kind of stalking that top race drivers have to do.
Tom Sneevil was in third position, and Gordon Johncock, who had had the lead earlier in the race, it looked like he was running very, very smoothly, was fourth, with Rick Rears, the winner here last year, in fifth spot. But there was Koonsman, but here comes Rutherford as Johnny starts his charge.
Well, Koonsman still on the racetrack where he wants to be. Johnny Rutherford was trying to get high next to the wall there, but there's only one groove really around a racetrack like this, unless your car is handling very well, and that's exactly the way that car of Johnny Rutherford, the red and white car, Johnny Rutherford, took the lead there. Car number 4, absolutely clean as a whistle, high on the high banking, 24-degree banking here at Atlanta, and there, look at the lead that he stretched out there. This is experience, and here the master with a motor car that was really handling was able to take it.
The man who was no stranger to victory lane, of course, at Indianapolis and at the other tracks. You saw him take the white flag there. Johnny Rutherford, the leader through the initial stages of the race, and he fell back. At one point, he had dropped back as far as fourth place, and then coming on with the late charge as he was able to overtake Lee Koonsman. And in the first 125 race at Atlanta today, it was Johnny Rutherford coming down the home stretch and taking the checkered flag. Lee Koonsman settled for second. Tom Sneevil was third. Gordon Johncock finished fourth. Okay, that happened earlier, and of course our live coverage coming up of the Atlanta 125 IndyCar race. Next up, however, the big story in racing today, USAC versus CART. Back with that in a moment. Just prior to the start of the race, there are the Unser brothers, Al on the left, Bobby on the right, and I'm wondering if they're discussing what's on everybody's mind. Will they be able to start in the Indy 500? That is the big question in motorsports today. A difficult, a complex situation. To elaborate upon it, let's go down to the pits and Chris Economaki.
Thanks, Al. Well, last summer, some of the complaints that have been heard about racing took concrete form. A group of the car owners, not happy with the prize money, not happy with constant rule changes, and not happy with what they said was a board of directors that was unresponsive to their needs, formed their own organization called Championship Auto Racing Teams. After some byplay with the United States Auto Club, they formed their own association, joined the Sports Car Club of America, and announced the schedule of races for 1979. We're here today at Atlanta International Raceway for race number 2. Indianapolis Motor Speedway, United States Auto Club announced just the other day that certain drivers, certain car owners rather, would not be permitted to enter this year's Indianapolis 500-mile race. Roger Penske, a co-founder of CART and one of the club's 7 directors, is with me. Roger, what's the next step on your part now that the Speedway and USAC has said that certain of your members cannot enter the 500?
Well, Chris, I'd like to just set the record straight at the beginning of this interview that in 1978, the USAC Board of Directors were represented at our races only by one individual at all of our races, and that was Judd Phillips. And I think this was kind of the thing that broke the camel's back. Basically, we weren't getting communication, and we needed an organization that would be able to help us communicate about rules, about the technical specifications of our cars, about scheduling, purses, etc. And we felt if we're going to spend $20 million in 1979, we needed an organization that would be responsive. And only having one of the existing board of directors going to all of our events, we didn't think that we were getting the proper representation.
Okay, so this prompted your actions in setting your own 1979 schedule. The FIA rules allow you to enter Indianapolis. Now you've been barred, some of you, from the race. What acts will CART take next?
Well, we think that USAC, and in recent interviews, the USAC officials have said that they're very democratic. I don't think it's democratic when 6 of our CART teams have now had their entries returned by the USAC Board of Directors. We feel we should run in the race, and we're prepared, if necessary, to put up a bond because there have been rumors, it's been mystique, Dick King said, that we were not going to run in this year's 500. We're prepared to put up a bond saying we will run.
I see. Well, there's the latest development from Roger Penske, one of the CART co-founders. And back now to my colleague, Jackie Stewart.
Well, Chris, the situation here, I think, is very bad, because with only 5 short weeks to go to the Indianapolis 500, the most important motor racing event in the calendar year in America, we're going to see it, perhaps, without some of the very best drivers and some of the very best teams. This, I don't believe, motor racing can afford. It's definitely cheating the fans, it's definitely cheating the investors in the sport, and I do believe there has to be a coming together. Motor racing is one of the most glamorous, most exciting, and most colourful sporting events in any part of the world. I do believe it has a great future. Perhaps the past has not been here in America as flourishing or as prosperous as it could have been. Perhaps some of the bodies have to look at themselves. But the most important thing, in my opinion now, is for these two groups to get themselves together. Because I believe the Indianapolis 500 is too important for a war to take place that would involve some of these great drivers and some of these great cars. So as far as Jackie Stewart's concerned, it's a question of, gentlemen, let's get together. Let's get ourselves together for the Indianapolis 500.
So the USAC CART controversy continues. Meanwhile, the issue at hand here today, we'll concentrate on that, the Atlanta 125. Next up on Wide World, a preview of the George Willard Climb next week. We'll go back to Frank Gifford in New York right after this message. We're back at Atlanta International Raceway. Al Michaels, Jackie Stewart, Chris Economaki reporting. As you can see, the cars moving out of pit road and out onto the track for the parade lap. And they will start this race in the order in which they finished the first race. We mentioned Johnny Rutherford was the winner of the first race, the Atlanta 125 today. It was his 18th Champ Car victory. So we have a field of 18. The weatherman has been predicting rain all day long. We've had no precipitation so far. We have a very heavy cloud cover, and certainly that has to work to the advantage of the drivers. They do not have to look into the setting sun going down the backstretch.
No, and the temperature's reasonably cool also, so therefore there's no great heat problem, as sometimes can be the case here at Atlanta, but this time of the year is very pleasant. The driver's in good condition. You can certainly see that man's in good condition. Johnny Rutherford, the red and white car, the car number 4, a man who's won, as Al says, 18 championship events now, a man who's won the Indianapolis 500. The rest of the field, very fast field here, tremendously competitive. We saw good racing in that first 125-mile race. I anticipate we're going to see equally good racing here. Remember, it's 1.522 miles around this racetrack, 24 degrees of banking, and there's Danny Ongaius in car number 25, the black car, and he's way back in the field because he had a problem. He ran out of fuel coming into the pits. He then started up again, got along to the pit lane exit, and then suddenly his car stopped and he got out the car in that first race earlier today. We've got a very good shot here, a speed shot that once this race starts you see the tremendous power and speed of these Indy type cars. So there you go, great prospects for a great race out.
Interesting track. The turn's banked at 24 degrees, 1.5 miles, so we'll go 82 laps for 125 miles. 9 rows, 18 cars, and here we go with the lineup. Johnny Rutherford is on the pole because he won the first race, and the runner-up in race 1, Lee Kunzman, in car number 21, the black car outside him. We have Tom Sneva in the yellow number 1 and Gordy Johncock comprising row number 2. In the third row, Rick Mears, who won here last year, the blue car, number 9, down on the inside, flanked by former Indy winner Al Unser in car number 2, the yellow. Row 4, Bobby Unser in the blue number 12. He finished 7th in the first race, and last year's Rookie of the Year, Tom Bagley. In row number 5, Pancho Carter, the white car, number 10, and Salt Walther in the light blue out of Dayton, Ohio, in number 77. In the 6th row, Wally Dallenbach, who had that spin in race number 1, but he got back into the race. Dallenbach finished 11th, and Vern Schupan. Then in row number 7, Joe Saldana off the dirt tracks, and to Danny Ongaius, and here comes Tom Sneva into the pits. They have not yet moved the pace car into pit road, so they'll go around one more time, but Sneva's in trouble already.
Tom Sneva being worked upon there, the new color scheme of Tom Sneva's car, the yellow car carrying number 1 as usual, but Tom Sneva changed teams at the end of that last season. He's being pushed away and he's back in again. It was obviously a minor adjustment. He calculated there was going to be one more lap, and therefore he was able to get that adjustment that could make all the difference in his competitiveness in this race.
We'll find out. Just to set the rest of the field now, we had in row number 7, Joe Saldana and Danny Ongaias, who we mentioned before, starts in 14th position in the black car number 25. As you look at Tom Sneva coming back into his place in the order, Bill Alsop and Mike Mosley comprise row number 8. And then the final row with Spike Gelhausen, who left the first race early. That's his alternate car. He qualified another car, racing his alternate machine today, and Larry Rice rounding out the field. So the pace car is getting set to move into the pits. It is doing so at the moment. The field right now in turn number 3, as they're ready to enter turn number 4, come down the short straightaway. The starter is Nick Fornaro, and the field is looking for the green flag, with Johnny Rutherford on the pole, Lee Kunzman outside him, Sneva back in position now in the second row on the inside, and Gordon Johncock, and we're underway. And Tom Sneva is able to move into second place as they go into the first turn with Johnny Rutherford out in front. So Rutherford, looking for a double here, is the leader.
And Kunzman's taken second place. Kunzman stayed high in the banking there, and he's able to pass Tom Sneva there, and Gordon Johncock putting pressure on Tom Sneva also. Gordon Johncock in the blue and white car, high in the banking there, going through turn 3. He wasn't able to get through there, so he's tucked in behind Tom Sneva. Sneva's car's got slightly loose there on the banking, these bumpy banks here at Atlanta, but it's still Johnny Rutherford in the lead.
You will see some undulations on this racetrack. It's been resurfaced, but it is a bit bumpy, and you really feel them as they're turning laps at over 190 miles an hour.
Gordie Johncock, in fact, has got himself now better position. He passed Tom Sneva there, but you've got Johnny Rutherford very much in the lead, and that's Johnny Rutherford we're looking at right now. Then you've got Lee Kunzman, then you've got Gordon Johncock, and behind him this race where Tom Sneva has been displaced now by Bobby Unser, and there they go through there. That's the race between Bobby Unser and Tom Sneva there, moving positions, and oddly enough, Tom Sneva, of course, was with the team that Bobby Unser is now with in 1979, so that's really a good heart-to-heart they're having.
Johnny Rutherford in the lead with Gordie Johncock moving up.
And it looks like Joe Saldana may be in trouble. Joe Saldana, in fact, is dropped off, and there's smoke coming out of that car. We've got trouble in 2 different counts here. The car coming into the pits is, in fact, that car is coming in. Mike Mosley is coming in. Bad luck for Mike Mosley, and at the same time, bad luck also for the car that was Lee Kunzman's car is also coming into the pit lane as well.
We've got the yellow flag for the first time. And car number 36, Mike Mosley, in the pits, as was the case in the first race today. And also car number 21, Lee Kunzman, who started on the outside in row number 1. So early in the race, we're under the yellow at Atlanta. We'll be right back.
Now, Ford pickup.
We're still under the yellow flag at Atlanta. 2 cars out of the race, Lee Kunzman and Mike Mosley. As you look at the standings, and it appears they will go one more lap under the yellow. Johnny Rutherford out in front, and Gordon Johncock is in second place, and that's the way they started race number 1, qualifying in that order. And now we've got another car coming into the pits. That is Joe Saldana in car number 69. So our 18-car field is now 16 and maybe 15, as Saldana, who had a problem in the first race, has another one.
Well, he's coming into the pits. Of course, it's under the yellow, so he's not losing that much. He knows that the situation is there. He knows he's got one more lap. He's having an adjustment made to the front end. I don't think the tire's been changed. It may be a suspension change. It certainly is. The mechanic there has a spanner or a tool in his hand there. They're pushing him back out again, kept his engine running. One other car that came into the pits here to use the benefit of that yellow flag, in fact, was Danny Ongaias. Danny came into the pits as well, took on some fuel and left very hurriedly. He was fairly far back in the field in any case, so therefore it was no great loss for him so early in the event. So therefore he's had the advantage of 4 laps extra of fuel. So there we have, as we get our pace car coming low into the pit lane, we may well get a start.
We should, as they line up single file as we get ready to race under the green again on this, which would be lap number 7 out of 82 laps, and they get the green with Unser dropping down low in car number 12 to move out in front.
Well, Bobby Unser rather anticipated the flag, I would like to say there. He certainly had his foot on it well and truly before they came out of turn 4, and certainly there may be a few words to be said by some of the people in here, because that might not be looked upon with great grace in the pit of Johnny Rutherford. But there is the car number 12, the blue and white car now, the two-time winner of the Indy 500, slightly ahead of another great Indy driver, that of Johnny Rutherford in the red and white car number 4.
And yet another former Indy winner, Gordon Johncock, racing in 3rd spot with Tom Sneva 4th. So there are the leaders early in the Atlanta 125. Unser and Rutherford down the backstretch.
Well, certainly CART must be pretty happy at the kind of motor racing they're having today so far. It's certainly pleasing everybody. And here Johnny Rutherford gets very low on the racetrack, and he gets underneath. Can he make it past to the finishing line? No. Still in the lead there is Bobby Unser. But my goodness, there, and look at him now. He's side by side there as they go around. He still hasn't taken the lead. Johnny Rutherford putting a lot of pressure on Bobby, but Bobby Unser knows what to do. Right behind them, the other blue and white car there of Gordon Johncock. And my goodness, he's trying to get through. This is great racing, really close racing, round this tight little circuit here. It's not often that these Indy-type cars come down here. They were down last year. Rick Mears won the race, but this is great racing.
That's right, the fans here attune really to NASCAR racing, door handle to door handle. And the Champ cars coming down, and they're giving them a taste of NASCAR action through the initial stages.
And if we see a few empty seats here in the grandstands, that's the reason for it. NASCAR racing in the south here, it's the big old boys in the southern states. And these northern Yankees don't get too much attention down here, but certainly they're certainly getting great money's worth here.
They'll get a lot more attention with more racing like this. Bobby Unser out in front. Johnny Rutherford is in 2nd place as we have the clock on him. They're turning laps here in under half a minute. In the first race, under the green, they ran some laps at over 193. Johnny Rutherford qualified for the first race at a speed in excess of 201 miles an hour on a 1.5-mile long racetrack.
Well, a lot of pressure there as we come through. 28.7 seconds, 190.913 miles an hour. Very fast motoring indeed.
So a tight battle racing on lap number 12 as we come to you live from Atlanta International Raceway, the second 125-mile race of the day. The first one was won by Johnny Rutherford, who's very much in contention here. He's in 2nd place, trailing Bobby Unser, who was able to anticipate the green flag after the yellow on lap number 7 to move past Rutherford and into the lead.
And as we look at these cars, ironically, these are the men who are not going to be allowed to drive at the Indianapolis 500 as it sits right now. Roger Penske, one of his cars is in the lead. Then the McLaren is in 2nd place. And then Gordon Johncock, the car that is mechanicked by the great George McNaughty. He's in 3rd place. And as we look at these cars now and the dispute that is taking place, and there's another dispute, a tremendous head-to-head dispute as they go past the start-finishing line. And it's still, has he got it? He has.
Rutherford staying low.
He's got it. Johnny Rutherford's in the lead, and therefore Bobby Unser had to back off a little bit. You're going to see Gordon Johncock having a go at him right now, because that little breath of air there allowed that Johnny Rutherford just to get through and get a clean racetrack ahead of him.
So it's Rutherford, Unser, Johncock, Sneva, running 1, 2, 3, 4. Good, tight, early battle at Atlanta. We'll be back. Back live at Atlanta, you're looking at a man trying to sweep both ends of a doubleheader. Johnny Rutherford, a victory in his pocket already, and the lead here on lap number 18 in the 125, second half. And look at that battle for 2nd place among 4 cars. Bobby Unser, Gordon Johncock, Tom Sneva in the yellow car number 1, and Rick Mears in a tight battle. You can see them all in one shot as they come out of turn number 2 and down the backstretch. Tough luck, of course, for Lee Kunzman, who led 2 laps from the finish in race 1, had to leave this one early. Chris Economaki is with him.
Oh, Lee, it's been a tough day. You had a great drive in the first one. You got 2nd. Now you're out of it. What was the trouble?
Well, actually, we broke a small piece in the gearbox, so it's not a real expensive failure, but because we fell out of the race, it's going to be expensive from that aspect.
Lee, what were you thinking about that first one when you were leading with so close to the finish?
Well, I was hoping it would come to an end pretty quickly because we're running a little harder than I wanted to, and the front tires were starting to give up, and actually we just ran out of front tires.
Okay, better luck next time, Lee.
Thank you very much, Chris.
Okay, back to you, Al.
All right, Chris, and our leader here, still no change. It's Johnny Rutherford sailing along very smoothly, about a fourth of the way through the race. Johnny Rutherford on lap number 21. Still Bobby Unser in second place. Gordy Johncock is third. Tom Sneva fourth. And Rick Mears is in fifth place. Pancho Carter sixth. Al Unser seventh. Wally Dallenbach eighth. All of those drivers on the same lap. Johnny Rutherford, 41 years old, from Fort Worth, Texas. Out in front, earlier, Jackie Stewart visited with him.
John, 135 miles, a very short race, obviously a sprint.
Yes, it is, Jackie. It's just that, a sprint, very quick. Guy's going to have to go flat out all the way, and of course, with slower cars, the closing rate being very rapid here, it's something you're going to have to watch out for, and moving in traffic is going to be very critical.
Is the banking going to affect that? It's a 24-degree banking, probably the highest that you run on.
Well, it certainly helps, and of course the great speeds we're running is attributed to the banking because you don't have to back off for the corners. You're flat out through the turn, and as I said, the closing rate here is fantastic. You can see a car going down the straightaway as you're coming out of a turn and catch him very rapidly if it's a slower car, and you have to watch because you can actually run up on a guy too quickly, and you have to be critical. It's very critical as to where you commit yourself to.
Well, Johnny Rutherford just mentioned, and moving down on the inside, a flat tire on car number 10, Pancho Carter.
Well, he's got a flat tire. He's got more than that. The tire's completely off the rim there. Pancho got it under control, gets himself into the pits, and we've got the leader in the pits at the same time. We've got Johnny Rutherford coming in to be serviced by Tyler Alexander and his very efficient McLaren team. McLaren mechanics, really experienced, know what it's all about. They've been in all kinds of motor racing. They've won the Indianapolis 500. They've won the World Championship. They've won the Can-Am Championship. They know how to build cars, and by the looks of that pit stop, they know how to service them. But of course, this indeed is a yellow flag pit stop. There you've got the Penske lads, and they certainly know what it's about. Roger Penske standing on the wall there, leaning forward there, stopped his car at the last minute. Penske knew about it. That's an expensive stop. They ran over their own airline there. That's not too good.
Well, also on Wide World today, coverage of an event you've enjoyed. I know I did, covering it from Petaluma, California, the World Wrestling Championships. Meanwhile, here at Atlanta, they are running under the yellow, with the leaders taking advantage of it to go into the pits. Still under the yellow flag here in Atlanta. The leader is Salt Walter, but of course he has not gone into the pits. Johnny Rutherford has, and he is in second place. We'll be coming back, but right now the World Wrestling Championships from California. International Raceway. When we left you, we were under the yellow, and now we are under the green again. And the leader at the moment is Salt Walter. However, keep in mind, he, among the 5 men whose names you are looking at right there, has not pitted. We'll return with more wrist wrestling later on, but right now, racing under the green in Atlanta, and a good tight battle because Walter is out in front. However, keep in mind, the next 4 men have all been into the pits. Tom Sneva, Johnny Rutherford, Al Unser, and Rick Mears. Walter will have to pit shortly because right now we are nearing the halfway point of the race. It's highly doubtful, extremely doubtful, that a man can make it through this race with only 1 pit stop.
I would find it very doubtful indeed, but look at that shuffling that was taking place there. There was trying to be a real shuffle going on, and there's a real good bit of racing going in there. Look at this, Salt Walter going there. He's in the middle, he's in the blue car there, and going high in car number 4. You've got the car of Johnny Rutherford. He was trying to take Salt Walter on the outside, but no, he couldn't do that. What a bit of racing going on here. He has, in fact, got past, and there he's trying it again, high on turn 1 and 2. This racing car of his is really handling. It's got to be handling so well. Tom Sneva in the yellow car behind him. And there's Saltwater is low. Saltwater, and he gets taken also by Sneva. And now Saltwater gets taken also by Al Unser. Saltwater obviously being caught up by a lot of the cars. The car right behind him now is that of Danny Ungaius, who's come through the field right from the back. Ungaius doing one of his characteristic charges, and there he goes past Saltwater. Saltwater there on the banking, obviously being passed by a whole bunch of cars. There's Danny Ungaius, the black car number 25. He's having a charge, and he's trying to get up in there past Rick Mears, and that's who he's passing right now, but he doesn't make it. He doesn't get through. He had to lift off, break even a little bit, and that's the race for 5th and 6th. What close racing we're getting all the way through the field here. We're live at Atlanta, and are we having fun as Danny Ungaius slips down underneath. He goes past Rick Mears, so he's into 5th position right now, high on this 24-degree banking of the 1.522-mile racetrack outside of Atlanta here. We're live with ABC.
The relationship there to the leader, who at the moment is Johnny Rutherford, and that car, number 4, won the first race and is leading now in the second race as we are halfway through the race. Lap 41 complete out of 82 in the Atlanta 125. Johnny Rutherford is your leader. Tom Sneva in second place. Al Unser has moved up to third. The brightest young star on this circuit, Rick Mears, fourth. And you just saw Danny Ungaius move into 5th position.
Well, Danny Ungaius is charging hard now. He's trying to get underneath in turn 3 and 4 here. You can hardly see him in the shadow there, and that is him. He's really going. He's now after Tom Sneva in the yellow car. Tom Sneva running under new colours this year, and Danny Ungaius, black and yellow, make a lovely strip. The Dumbarton Football Club have that from that colour scheme, and right now they're not leading the league, but Danny Ungaius is certainly leading the charge.
Danny Ungaius, the man with the 900-pound foot, never lets up off the accelerator. His machine could stay together. He'd win a lot of races.
Well, right now he's even closing on Johnny Rutherford. He's really closing up on the leader, the man who came from the islands, who came from Hawaii, who was drag racing, he was motorcycle racing, he came to Indianapolis. He's about 37 years of age, has a tremendous maturity for his age amongst those drivers, because most of them have had a great deal more experience than he has. He road races, he off-road races, and he certainly does well on these banked racetracks. So there he is right now in second position. Tom Sneva, he's left behind. Al Unser, he's left behind. And there they go through with Johnny Rutherford obviously paying attention to his mirrors. He's still got a comfortable lead here, but with a man like Ungaius charging behind you, you want to keep your eyes open.
It's an interesting day so far for Johnny Rutherford.
And Ungaius is having trouble. He's gone low in the racetrack. He's been passed. Danny Ungaius, after this incredible charge, has had a problem. The black car there of Danny Ungaius, I look as I fear he's going to enter pit lane.
And how often have we seen this, Jackie, where Ungaius makes the charge and then all of a sudden something happens into the pits?
It just seems like his lead foot is too fast for the machinery, but being a racing driver, I know, and he's locked up a wheel. He's locked up a wheel. Looks like he's got a flat tire, maybe. It could be that his front right-hand tire is flat. That's exactly what's wrong. That's why the man had to slow up. He had to have that tire go down on him. He can get a puncture on a racetrack just the same as you can on the open highway. However, he's going to lose a lap. He has indeed lost a lap. Johnny Rutherford's passed. He was 12.9 seconds in the pits, but you've got to consider the way out and the way in, and he's now 1 lap down on the rest of these leaders. So Johnny Rutherford, again in the lead. He won the first race, the first 125-mile race that was run here today in Atlanta. Now, as we're coming to you live, he's leading this race in Atlanta, and Joe, is he putting on a show? It'll be remaining to be seen whether Danny Ungaius can get things together, but with 1 lap down, I doubt it very much.
So the leader right now is Johnny Rutherford with 47 laps in the books. Al Unser is second. Tom Sneva is third. Rick Mears in fourth place. Bobby Unser fifth. Moderation yet to come. We've completed 52 of 82 laps. You're looking at the leader, Johnny Rutherford, out in front. Al Unser is in second place. Tom Sneva third. Rick Mears is fourth. Bobby Unser is fifth. All running on the same lap in the Atlanta 125. Let's check in with Chris Economaki.
One of the most sensitive areas in championship racing is that of tires. Down here is the dead tire, so to speak, off the right front of Danny Ungaius' car. It's covered up so no one can see what it looks like. the tread was pulled off, or the surface was pulled off, that forced him into the pits after that. It was a remarkable job of handling foreign guys, because that right front tire, with the rubber having thrown off, wasn't doing him much good on the car. He's back out on the track trying to make up lost ground. Back to you, Al.
Very tough for him to do at this point. Right now, Johnny Rutherford sailing along smoothly out in front. We'll be back here for continuing coverage of the Atlanta 125 live from Atlanta International Raceway. But right now, let's return to more of the event that I enjoyed covering earlier on Wide World of Sports Wrist Wrestling from Petaluma, California. Bottom of the screen, Johnny Rutherford, who is going into the pits, his second pit stop, and up on top is the leader in the race, Al Unser. So was Rutherford, who had been the leader, into the pits. Quick stop, and out he comes. The leader in the yellow car, number 2, is Al Unser, with 69 laps completed in the Atlanta 125.
Well, for Johnny Rutherford, he succumbed to that situation. Al Unser had been in the pits earlier on there, and of course that had given him the advantage of also getting tanked up. But Rutherford now is back in the racetrack. He's ready for racing. He's in a position to go the full distance now, as also, of course, is Al Unser. Al Unser driving for Jim Hall. Very famous man in motor racing, one of the most innovative men that have ever been in the sport. The man who first brought in the winged car, the man who brought in ground effects, as they speak of today, and in modern Grand Prix motor racing, ground effects is very much part of the scene. But there is Johnny Rutherford back in business.
And in a hurry. Al Unser in car number 2. So the action continuing, and we're set up for what should be a pretty wild finish to the Atlanta 125 as Johnny Rutherford looks for a double. We'll be back.
Why should...
We're back, and you're looking at the leader, who is Johnny Rutherford, out in front in the second of the 125-mile races at Atlanta. One victory in his hip pocket already, and looking for another one here.
Well, Johnny Rutherford, who won the very first race, there's an enormous amount of confusion here as to who, in fact, is in the lead. There's been 2 different references to a leader. At one point, it was referred to the fact that Al Unser was in the lead, and that's the yellow car on the right-hand side of the screen now, car number 2. And then it was said that Johnny Rutherford was a lap down, but it now seems, the report from the officials, that, in fact, Rutherford is leading the race. We have that situation as Rutherford leading the race, and I'm not quite sure of what the situation is. This is what the officials are giving us at this time. Johnny Rutherford in the lead, Al Unser second, Rick Mears third, Bobby Unser fourth, and Tom Sneeve in car number 1. He's in 5th position with only 7 laps to go. Remember, this is a very tight little circuit, 1.522 miles around here. The man who's been fastest the whole weekend, he's really been the dominant man on this racetrack. Johnny Rutherford, obviously with a car that is handling to allow him to go almost on any part of the racetrack. And that's, of course, the way that a race driver likes to have it.
A little bit of deja vu here. In the first race of the season at Phoenix, there was some confusion as to who was leading and who won the race, with Gordy Johncock finally declared the winner and Johnny Rutherford second. Yes. Gordy didn't know he'd won it.
No, there was certainly some confusion there, but of course this is something that can happen, particularly during pit stops under the green. Pit stops under the yellow, there's a little more time to be able to place everything, and when the cars come out, of course, behind the pace car, there's an opportunity to set the field. When the green flag is on, there can be some confusion, but Johnny Rutherford is the fastest man on the racetrack. It seems fairly sure now that they're giving us that he is the leader. So car number 4, the red and white car, entered by McLaren Racing, a team that have been enormously successful over the years, Al. They've, as I said earlier, during one of his pit stops, they've won the World Championship, and they've won also the Can-Am Championship. Bruce McLaren, the great New Zealander who was so tragically killed in one of his own cars during a test session at the Goodwood racetrack in the south of England. He lost his life in that accident, and his name has been kept alive by that on the car. A great tribute to one of the greatest racing drivers that ever lived, Bruce McLaren, one of the greatest designers that ever lived. So therefore, he, at this time, has his name firmly planted in the car that Johnny Rutherford drives, that red and white car, number 4. They seem to be fairly even at this time. Al Unser in second position. A fairly even gap. He seems to be holding his lead very comfortably. As it happens, Al Unser driving the car of an ex-racing driver too, the Jim Hall, a man who certainly did very well in the Can-Am season, has driven all sorts of cars with his own name on them, the Chaparral he called them, down from Austin, Texas, is a man who's been innovating. As I said earlier, he was the first man to bring in the wing car. He was the first man to bring in what they call the vacuum cleaner, a fan underneath the car to suck the air out and allow it to grip the road even more. I was the man who drove that in its first ever race, and he's now designing another ground effects vehicle which will come out later this year, probably in the hope that he can get into the Indy 500. I did say earlier some of these drivers would not be able to go to the Indy 500 because they had been banned by USAC and the Indy officials. I have to say that it's their teams that have been banned at this time. They've said that the drivers are welcome. However, of course, these drivers are under contract to most of these teams, so therefore it goes without saying that the chances are they will be unable to go to Indy, which we hope will be sorted out before the great 500-mile race.
Johnny Rutherford still the leader and getting the white flag right now with 1 lap to go. Johnny Rutherford out in front with Al Unser second. And Rutherford was talking about how important it is today to win in light of the confusion in regard to Indianapolis, the possibility he will not race there. And there is Unser, who may have run out of fuel at the end of the race here. He was in second place.
I think Al Unser has run out of fuel. I think he looks as if he's not in trouble any other way. He's trying to coast himself round here, and of course he'll lose his positions by doing that. But there the checkered flag goes, and Johnny Rutherford.
He's won them both. He won the first 125 today. He wins the second 125 2 hours later. Back-to-back victories for the 41-year-old star from Fort Worth. You saw Rick Mears in car number 9 cross the finish line in second place. And so Johnny Rutherford picks up in one day his 18th and 19th Champ Car wins. Unofficially, we have Danny Ungaius in car number 25 finishing third, despite the problem that he had earlier. Otherwise, Danny might have gotten the checkered flag. There, the final results. Unofficial, Rutherford, Mears, Ungaius, Bobby Unser, and the defending two-time national champion Tom Sneva coming in fifth. We'll return to Atlanta International Raceway in a moment. Johnny Rutherford, the winner, but for right now, let's go to New York and Frank Gifford in our studio.
Thank you, Al. A big day for Johnny Rutherford, and we'll be going back down to Atlanta, Georgia. We'll also be taking a look back at yesterday. Both legs of the Atlanta 125 went to Johnny Rutherford, and we're going to go back down there and join Al Michaels right after this message.
Victory lane at Atlanta International Raceway for the second time today. Johnny Rutherford makes a visit. Congratulations, Johnny. You got a tax problem early this year.
Well, I hope so, Chris. I'll fight it the best I can.
How's the wife feel about these two wins?
Oh, that's fantastic. I wish we could do this every weekend.
Okay, and track owner LG DeWitt, how do you like Indianapolis car racing on the stock car track?
Very good. We're going to keep building here, and we're going to have a real racetrack.
Okie doke. That's the story from Atlanta International Raceway. Back to you, Al.
All right, Chris, and now the official results. Johnny Rutherford, the winner. Rick Mears finished second. He won here last year. The Unser boys were third and fourth. Al finishing in the 3 spot, and then Bobby in car number 12, and Danny Ungaius in car number 25. Despite the problems he had after he had made the charge, and it looked like he was about to take over the lead, Danny Ungaius winds up fifth. So a big day for Johnny Rutherford, winning both Atlanta 125. That's the story from Georgia. Al Michaels, along with Jackie Stewart and Chris Economaki, saying so long from Atlanta International Raceway. Johnny Rutherford winning it back-to-back.
Andretti and Nicky Lauda.